be yet another modern skyscraper going up in our city, right? So the reason I stop and pause here is because, construction, putting up a new building, of course, generates lots of clutter or lots of debris, lots of dirt and so forth. And a building like that, we've had many cases where construction workers will actually call in when they're at the top and they'll say, "You're not going to believe this, but there's a rat up here on the 100th floor and the building's not even finished." And that's very common. And so people say, "Gee, what are they doing up there?" Maybe the rat would say, "I just went exploring. That's all I did. That's what we do, is we explore." And so sometimes they're there before we even move in. They're already in. Now I have construction workers, which again, by code, they're not allowed to. But as the walls are being constructed, walls have voids in them. And sometimes construction workers, or one of the construction workers out of 100, will put their lunch trash into that wall every day. It's like, well, I'm not carrying it over downstairs to the butt. It's, again, 1 out of 100 or whatever it might be. And the mice and rats like, it was already made for us. So yes, we moved in on the 100th floor because we found garbage and we found food and we're good to go. But, and there are principles of, should we have rodent control in place before the building begins? And the answer is absolutely. Cleanliness, tight building, doors are done well, holes are plugged correctly with the right sealant, not just caulk, and on we could go. But anytime a building goes up, it should have state-of-the-art pest management. And in fact, it was written 100 years ago that whenever a building is built, when you sit down with the architects and the contractors, who should also be at that table? Pest management professionals. Every single time they should be there, but they're almost never invited to that meeting before the building goes up. Everyone says, look, if you get a pest after it's up, just call a pest control guy. You know what I'm saying? And they'll come for a monthly service. It should be, right at the get-go, before we even dig the first hole with the shovel, we invite the pest professional. It would be great if we ever see a change where that's the law. It should be the law. So here, in contrast there, but it's pretty cool, we have a brand new state-of-the-art building going up that is clearly going to be modern architecture, design, and materials. Here, on the right, closer to us, we have a classic city building that I'm going to just guess is maybe 75 to 100 years old. Brick walls instead of glass, for example, many windows, each floor has its own separate air conditioning system. So we end up with an architecture that the old versus the new, and the question becomes, well, which is more conducive to the rats and the mice? Is it the old versus the new? Because new does not necessarily make it less conducive to rodents. It all has to do with the architecture. But we do know that the old buildings that have many old systems of heating and electrical and voids and triple brick voids, very prone, this building, for example, right here, very prone to house rats, extremely so. And the mice, if someone said, how many nooks and crannies in that old building right there, how many nooks and crannies, if we get a count for the house mouse, do they have accessible to them? If we could use a predictive model, for example, that might be just one item of, well, if we just did that on one floor and then replicated that for all floors, we probably would end up with several 100,000 nooks and crannies in that building to which the house mouse can hide from us. So when someone says, will you give us a contract on controlling the mice of this hotel or office building, how much should that be? Because to control the mice in that building thoroughly is going to be a whole lot of detective work of accessing those mice. It cannot be done easily with just putting out snap traps or glue boards or bait stations. It really is a combination of using tools and doing a lot of detective work is to find out what parts of the building are the large populations of mice building up. And that is really important because, someone says, well, please give me a cheap bid, give me an inexpensive bid, otherwise I'll call another company. They're never going to get rid of the mice with that kind of an attitude. And as we now know, through recent publications, house mice carry some pretty bad boy germs. Bad boys.